When the man crawled onto the beach, he barely looked human. His hair was wild. His beard was thick. His body was swollen, weak, and burned by the sun. He had crossed so much ocean that at first, the people who found him did not understand where he had come from. He said his name was José Salvador Alvarenga. He said he was a fisherman, and then he told them something almost impossible. He had been drifting at sea for 438 days. Not weeks, not months. 438 days, long enough for the world to stop searching, long enough for his family to believe he was dead, long enough for the ocean to become the only place left. José Salvador Alvarenga was a Salvadoran fisherman living and working in Mexico. In November 2012, he left the coast of Chiapas in a small fishing boat with a young companion named Ezequiel Cordoba. It was supposed to be a fishing trip. Dangerous, yes. Hard, yes. But normal for men who made their living from the sea. They were not sailing into legend. They were going out to work. The boat was small and open, built for coastal fishing, not for crossing an ocean. There was no cabin to hide inside, no real shelter from the sun, no comfortable place to sleep. Just a boat, fishing gear, 2 men, and the Pacific. At first, it was routine. Then the weather changed. A storm moved in and turned the trip into something else entirely. The sea rose around them. Wind hit the boat hard. Rain came down. Waves slammed the hull again and again. The engine failed. The electronics failed. The radio became useless, and the coastline began to disappear. By the time the storm passed, Mexico was gone. There was only water in every direction. At first, survival meant waiting. Waiting for another boat. Waiting for a plane. Waiting for someone to realize they were missing and come looking. But the Pacific is not a road. It does not leave tracks. A small fishing boat can vanish on it completely. Alvarenga and Cordoba drifted farther from land every day. The current carried them west, away from the coast, away from rescue, away from the world they knew. They had almost nothing. No steady food, no fresh water, no shade except whatever they could improvise, no engine, no control. The boat was no longer a vehicle, it was a piece of debris with 2 living men inside it. They learned quickly that the ocean would not give them anything for free. If it rained, they drank. If birds landed on the boat, they caught them. If fish came close enough, they ate. Sometimes they drank turtle blood. Sometimes they ate raw fish. Sometimes they survived on whatever the sea threw into reach. There was no cooking, no clean plate, no normal meal, only hunger, salt, and the need to keep going. Alvarenga had spent years fishing. His body knew hardship. His mind understood the sea in a way most people never have to. Ezequiel Cordoba was younger. He was not built for this kind of endless punishment. At first, the 2 men survived together. They talked. They waited. They watched the horizon. They hoped the next shape in the distance would be a ship. But hope becomes dangerous when it keeps failing. Day after day, no rescue came. The food they found was raw. The water was uncertain. The sun burned them. The nights gave them no real rest. Ezequiel began to weaken. He struggled to eat what they needed to eat. The raw birds, the raw fish, the things that no one wants to imagine depending on. His body started giving up. Alvarenga tried to keep him alive. He talked to him, encouraged him, tried to make him eat. But there are moments in survival when willpower is not enough. After weeks at sea, Ezequiel died, and suddenly the boat was quieter than it had ever been. Alvarenga was alone, alone with the body of the young man who had left shore with him, alone with the ocean, alone with the knowledge that if he died too, no one might ever know what happened. There is a kind of survival story built around one decision. Cut the rope, break the bone. Climb out. Run. José Salvador Alvarenga's story was different. His survival was not one decision. It was the same decision repeated every morning. Wake up. Find food. Find water. Do not give up today. Then do it again tomorrow. and the day after that, and the day after that. The ocean gave him no finish line. He drifted through heat, storms, thirst, hunger, and months of empty horizon. He watched the sky because clouds could mean rain. He watched birds because birds could mean food. He watched the water because fish could be the difference between another day alive and the end. His world became brutally small. The boat, the sky, the sea, his own thoughts. He spoke to himself. He prayed. He remembered his family. He imagined food. He imagined home. Sometimes the mind creates its own shelter when the body has none. But time kept stretching. 1 month became 2, 2 became 6, 6 became 10. At some point, the number of days stopped feeling real. The ocean had taken his companion, his strength, his certainty, and almost his identity, but it had not taken the habit of surviving. By the time Alvarenga crossed the Pacific, his story had become almost too large to believe. He had drifted thousands of miles, from the coast of Mexico across open ocean toward the Marshall Islands. No engine, no sail, no map that mattered, just current, weather, and a small damaged boat moving through one of the largest spaces on Earth. He survived on what he could catch: fish, birds, turtles, rainwater when the sky gave it, and when there was no rain, he endured. That is the part that is hardest to understand. Not the eating, not the storms, not even the loneliness. The hardest part is the length of it. 438 days is not a disaster. It is a life, a terrible life, but a life. Long enough to stop feeling like someone waiting to be rescued. Long enough to become part of the ocean's routine. Sunrise, thirst, hunger, night, fear. Again, and still, he stayed alive. On January 30th, 2014, the boat reached land. Not Mexico, not anywhere close. The Marshall Islands, a remote chain of islands in the Pacific, thousands of miles from where the journey had begun. Alvarenga came ashore on Ibon Atoll after 438 days at sea. The ocean finally let him go. The people who found him saw a man who looked like he had come from another world. In a way, he had. He told them he had been lost for more than a year. He told them his companion had died. He told them he had survived by eating raw animals and drinking rainwater. And the world struggled to believe it. Because some stories are so extreme they sound like lies until the facts begin lining up around them. The missing report, the failed search, the currents, the distance, the condition of the man who came ashore. José Salvador Alvarenga had not disappeared into myth. He had drifted across the Pacific and lived. Survival did not end when he reached land. His body was alive but damaged. He was dehydrated, weak, swollen, changed by more than a year of exposure, hunger, and isolation. And then there was the part no doctor could fix quickly. The memory of Ezekiel, the months alone, the knowledge that he had returned from the ocean when another man had not. People wanted the miracle version of the story, the impossible castaway, the man who beat the Pacific. But survival stories are rarely that clean. Alvarenga came back alive but not untouched. No one survives 438 days at sea and returns as the same person who left shore. He had crossed a distance most boats are built to avoid. He had lived through a loneliness most people cannot imagine. He had watched the world shrink to a boat, a sky, and the next breath. And somehow, in that shrinking world, he kept choosing life. 438 days, one small boat, 2 men who left shore, 1 man who came back. José Salvador Alvarenga did not survive because the ocean became merciful. He survived because he learned to live inside a nightmare that refused to end. Sometimes survival is not a single brave moment. Sometimes it is waking up in the same impossible place every day and deciding again not to die there. If you enjoy survival stories that feel impossible but could be real, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.